Freedom Marchers. What's good? How you doing this morning? It is Friday. Was it October 21st, 2022? And yeah, it is exceptionally cold this morning in Blythewood, South Carolina. And I'm on my way to the plantation to pick some cotton. Yep. Anyway, but you gotta do what you gotta do until you're ready to do what you need to do. Until you're ready to do what you want to do. Anyway, how y'all doing this morning? So, I wanted to address a couple things, man, because it's very important. It's very important to address these things because, at the end of the day, I want as many people as possible to live in freedom. To be free individuals, to be sovereign over their own lives. And so it's important that we have an understanding. Right? Now, the other day, I did a short video regarding Jared from Guns and Gadgets. And the video had to do with the fact that Jared from Guns and Gadgets, even though he said in the video that he doesn't agree with the rule change for the ATF did for the pistol brace, he's going to show people how to comply or give people options to comply with this rule change. And I had an issue with that because, that's not what we should be doing if we're really about freedom. If we're really about, acknowledging and highlighting that the ATF has no right to come up with this rule change, then we should not be entertaining it in the very least. And that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. Because I'm such a staunch freedom lover, and y'all that been following me for a while, y'all know how consistent I am in regards to freedoms. I don't waver. You understand what I'm saying? And so that's why Jared has the right to tell you how to comply. And that's on him. But I can come out and say that I have a problem with that is inconsistent with freedom. To tell someone that you're for freedom and all this other shit, and then tell somebody you call yourself pro freedom, pro 2A, but then you show people how to comply with tyrants. Even though you say you don't agree with it, you think it's an illegal rule change. Why are we telling people to entertain that? Now, I'm not going to sit up here and tell people not to comply. I didn't say that in the video. I'm not going to sit up here and tell people you shouldn't comply with that rule change, because everybody has to make their own informed decisions. All I know is what I would do. If I had a pistol brace on an SBR, you know what I'm saying? And let's face it, the only reason people put SBRs on their goddamn short barrel rifles is so that the government doesn't call it a short barreled rifle and make that illegal, right? Because that's on the NFA. That's part of the NFA list. It's kind of weird, right? Because if you take the pistol brace off, you're in compliance, and it's just considered a pistol. And they call it pistols to avoid the short barrel rifle bullshit. But anyway, I'm not a fan of the pistol brace. I'm not. But that doesn't mean that I'm okay with it being restricted. Just like the bump stock. The bump stock to me is useless. But that doesn't mean I want it to be restricted. And I'm not saying that Jared wants the pistol brace restricted. But what I'm saying is, I'm not going to be the one to show people how to comply with an illegal, unconstitutional, tyrannical rule change that the ATF just decided to come out with on a whim. It's bullshit. You understand what I'm saying? And we know it's bullshit because of how they litigate it. Is it a fire or not? They do the same thing with silencers. When they sued them for the silencer being part of NFA, they came out and said, well, it's not going against the Constitution because the silencer or the suppressor is not a firearm. So it's not part of the Second Amendment. But then you put it on the NFA, which is on the NFA list. And that has to do with firearms. But anyway, we know it's bullshit. So why are we even entertaining it? And look, I did not attack Jared. There are a bunch of comments in the comment section of that video. And thank you to all the subscribers that subscribed to me from that point. That said that I was attacking Jared. I must not like him, all this other shit. And look, I didn't attack Jared. I don't know Jared from Adam. You understand what I'm saying? I do appreciate his knowledge, right? And how he has a lot of inside track, a lot of information in regards to when all these things come down. Like when they do these rule changes, when they create these laws, he's on top of it, right? He's a good, you get a lot of good information from him. But there are certain things that he says and does that I feel contradicts the idea of freedom, right? This idea that we're free individuals. When he says real men don't ask permission, right? When you tell people how to remove a pistol brace to comply with an illegal rule change, you're asking for permission. That's what you're doing. And that's inconsistent. So all I'm doing is pointing that out. All I'm doing is saying, and I was kind of confused as to why he would do that. Even though he's saying in the video, yo, I don't agree with this. We shouldn't be having to do this. They don't have the right to do this. But I'm going to show you how to. No, I'm not going to do it. Again, that's for him. That's on him. But I can come out and say, yo, that's not cool, man. It doesn't make sense to tell people how to comply with this. So it's not a personal attack against him. I am attacking the idea of what he did. I'm attacking the actions. And it's not even really an attack. I'm disagreeing. I'm disagreeing with him doing that. But he has a right to do whatever he wants to do on his channel. That's his channel. And I guess what? I'm still going to watch his channel. But again, there are certain things that he says and does that don't line up with freedom, that are inconsistent. It's kind of like Braden from Langley Outdoors Academy, and they collaborate a lot. And Miranda from Armed Scholar, I really like him because all he does is stick with the laws and the court cases and all this other shit. He's on top of that, like legally. He can break it down legally. That's a very good channel to watch, Armed Scholar. But even the Armed Scholar, he's just giving you information from these lawsuits and the laws and the language on the laws. But he's not injecting anything else, right? And he's always talking about if you believe that there shouldn't be any infringements, like he's very consistent. Anyway, but here's another thing I had a problem with, right? Since we're talking about Jared, here's another thing I had a problem with, and this is something that I even put a comment on in this video. He had an issue with people comparing gun rights to driving or having a vehicle, the right to drive a vehicle, the right to own a car. He said that we don't have a right to own a vehicle. He said it's a privilege or whatever the case may be. And I have an issue with that. That's inconsistent with freedom. That's inconsistent with, that contradicts the idea of freedom. To tell people that they don't have a right to own a vehicle, that they don't have a right to drive. But then you say you have the right to travel. He says you have the freedom to travel, but you don't have the freedom to drive a car, to own a car. And I had to comment, I'm like, look, actually, they don't restrict car ownership. Well, they do. It depends, especially depending on where you live. They, small checks, this, that, and third. But I'm talking about you being able to go out and buy a car, right? you can buy a car. They don't restrict that or regulate that, not necessarily. Yeah, you have to, if you buy it from the DM, or if you buy it from a dealership, they want to run your credit and all that shit, but that's just them. That's a private. And then you have to register the car. You have to pay to register the vehicle. But if you wanted to buy a car from a private citizen, say, you could just buy the car. Doesn't mean that they don't regulate you owning the car. They regulate you driving it on the road, right? That's what they regulate. They don't, car ownership, you have the right to buy whatever you want to buy. It doesn't matter what a law says, or a so-called law, or whatever the case may be, right? So the thing is this: telling people that owning a vehicle is not a right is inconsistent with freedom. And if you don't believe that, there was even a code written to protect privileges, right? If you look at 18 U.S. Code 241, 18 U.S. Code 242, it has to do with people violating, 242 in particular. It has to do with people violating your rights under the color of law. It is not just rights. It mentions rights, privileges, and immunities. Privileges is in there. So even if you want to say it's a privilege, you have the right to that privilege. That privilege is a right. They don't have the right to violate your privileges. And there is a code that should protect you from it. So if they violate your rights and your privileges under the color of law, guess what? They can go to jail. They can be charged with a crime, because it is a crime. Violating someone's rights is a crime, point blank, and the period. And instead of telling people, yo, take the brace off, you just remove it, or you do this, or you register it, or this, that, and the third. Because let's face it, they tell you about the amnesty period. The amnesty period allows you to register your short barrel rifle or your AR pistol with the ATF, and you don't have to pay the $200 fee. I mean, it's bullshit. It's registration leads to confiscation. So why would you? I'm not saying he told people to do that. Now, I'm not saying he told people to do that, but I'm saying, yeah. Why would you want to remove a pin brace to comply with the ATF when it is an illegal rule change that they did not have the authority to do? The Supreme Court ruled on what bureaucracies have the power to do. And they don't have a power to create rules and create laws. They don't have the power to do that. And that happened with the EPA. Right? They ruled against the EPA because the EPA was trying to create their own rules based on Joe Biden's executive actions and executive orders. The Supreme Court said they cannot do that. The Supreme Court was very clear about concealed carry, open carry. Shall issue or may issue. They have to change it from may issue to shall issue. And they cannot create a sensitive place out of an entire public square, like Times Square, like the entire state of New York, right? They explicitly said that in the ruling. They specifically said that you cannot create a sensitive place out of an entire city, out of an entire state. You know what I'm saying? They said that. But where they fucked up is when Kavanaugh said they still can make you get a permit. That's where he fucked up. They should have just removed that. But no, right? They can't let you have all of your freedoms 100% of the time. But what did New York do? They came out and said, fuck that. We're going to create sensitive place out of a subway station, out of subways, Times Square, all these other places. People's private businesses, unless you get permission. Like, they don't have the right to tell, right? You know what I'm saying? They were explicitly instructed not to do that. Yet, they did it anyway. Right? And when they were sued again, the district court put an injunction on that fucking rule, that law. Put an injunction on it. And what did he do? He put a stay on his own injunction, which is, put a stay on his own injunction. And then the appellate court said, fuck the Supreme Court, and we're going to allow you to do it. And then it's just bullshit. This is what I'm talking about, right? The Supreme Court gave a ruling, and they're completely shitting on the ruling. In California, now California had they shit got stayed, and they can't actually and try to enforce their new laws, or I don't think they came up with it yet, but they had to remove certain things like the just cause and all this other shit. But then also the Supreme Court said, yo, there cannot be a subjective standard. It can only be an objective standard. So what New York and California did, they didn't remove the subjective standard. They just changed what the subjective standard is. And they added to it. New York added 3 years of social media that they want access to. Character references, all this bullshit. They added subjective standards. They removed one standard and added more standards. You see what I'm saying? And what happened to them? Oh, they got taken to court. You understand what I'm saying? So you see what I'm getting at here? It's okay for the tyrants in government. It's okay. And then this is what, you know what even funnier? They put an injunction on making sensitive places out of public areas and public spaces, right, for the entire state of New York. And then what did Eric Adams do from New York City? He went ahead and created a sensitive place out of fucking Times Square. And then the police, NYPD, said, we're going to enforce it. We don't give a hot fuck. They don't give a shit about what the Supreme Court says. The Supreme Court laid down the law of the land. They said, look, no objective standards. No creating sensitive places out of big random spots. Just because you don't want nobody to carry anywhere. They said, there's no more, only text, history, and tradition. No more two-step process bullshit for whether or not you determine the law is constitutional regarding the Second Amendment. They did all that. The Supreme Court laid down the hammer, and these states took it upon themselves to say, screw you, we're going to do what we want anyway. They're openly not complying. They are openly not complying. As far as I'm concerned, they're leading by example in regards to whether or not you should comply with a law or a rule that you don't agree with. By all rights, they should all be arrested. Anybody that initiated these new laws that completely went against what the Supreme Court said should be placed under arrest. Anybody who signed these laws, signed these bills into law, anybody who came up with the fucking bills, because that's violating 18 U.S. Code 241, conspiracy to deprive someone of their rights. After the Supreme Court said you can't do that, they went ahead and did it anyway. Anybody that that came up with the bill, like the legislators, they came up with this bill, they introduced it, they voted for it. Anybody who voted for it, anybody, you know what I'm saying, anybody who voted for this law should be placed under arrest for violating 18 U.S. Code 241. And when the governor signed it into law, she should be placed under arrest for violating 18 U.S. Code 241. And then once the NYPD and all these other police departments enforce it, they should be placed under arrest for violating 18 U.S. Code 242. But no, we're just going to take them to court. And what's going to happen again, right? What is the definition of insanity? Trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. How many times are we going to take the tyrants to court? And even if the court rules in our favor, all they're going to do is pull some slick shit and do what they want to do anyway. And what we're going to do, take them to court again? After they continuously violate our rights, after the Supreme Court told them that they can't do that? That's why I said, the Supreme Court, they're not part of the executive branch. They can't enforce the laws. All they can do is interpret them and say what the law is supposed to look like, what it's supposed to do, and whether or not it's constitutional. But they can't place people under arrest. So the Supreme Court essentially is, a paper tiger, right? Because they don't have the muscle. If Clarence Thomas wanted to ensure that he made an example of the governors and the legislators that created these unconstitutional laws, he doesn't have the teeth to do it. He can't send cops out to place people under arrest. That's what the executive branch is supposed to enforce the law as it's interpreted by the Supreme Court or by the courts. But when you have the executive branch and when you have the law enforcers following your orders and you're the one violating, and your law enforcers agree to do the violating, then what do you do now? What do you do? Take them to court again? So if they're not going to comply with the Supreme Court rulings, why are we telling people how to comply with their unjust laws, with their unjust rules? Rules for thee and not for me? Is that what we're doing here? How long are we going to allow these tyrants to do this? How long are we going to allow these tyrants to continue to violate laws, to continue to violate 18 U.S. Code 241, 242, and just sit back? When are we going to stand up for our rights 100%? The smart way. When you tell people how to comply, which is what he did. I don't care what y'all talking about. Action speaks louder than words. Not only did he tell you how to comply, he demonstrated on the video, he demonstrated with a firearm how to comply with an unlawful rule change. And when this law comes down, when this rule change goes into effect, there are going to be a lot of people having their rights violated. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to be violated by the ATF. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to be kidnapped and jailed. They're going to be kidnapped and held captive. A lot of people, some people might even die from this rule change. That was not an attack against Jared from Guns and Gadgets. That was I called him out. It is what it is. And I would want you guys to do the same to me. If I was inconsistent, if I contradicted myself in the realm of freedom, I would want you guys to tell me, yo, you say you're for freedom, but you believe in this. Good luck, because I don't believe, I feel like all written laws, right, created by man are bullshit, and they should not hold water. I believe in, the golden rule. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing I believe in, and I don't need some, I don't need some lawmaker, right, trying to tell me how I should do that. I don't need them telling me, oh, you can't do this and do that, when it has nothing to do with whether or not I committed a crime. It's just something that you don't like. But anyway, that's all I got for now. Hope you guys are doing good. Like, share, subscribe, and let's keep marching forward toward freedom. Peace. Leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think. I don't really have time to read the live chat right now. Much love.